And welcome back to another chapter of Counterculture. We are skipping around in the order of the chapters. I might arrange the playlist later to have the chapters in order, but we are not recording these in order. So this is the second recording session, and we're in chapter 3. So, yeah. Welcome in, though. Good to have y'all here. So throughout this book, we have been going through different ways that the gospel informs informs various tough topics that go pretty blatantly against what the culture says about said topics. And that could not be more true about today's topic, which is going to be abortion. And to talk about that, we have our amazing friend here, Icy Pants. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Icy Pants. I'm a Christian variety VTuber and a voice actor. I don't really have anything else to introduce myself with. I'm not a very political person. I don't typically talk about hot button topics all that much. This is, though, one that is very near and dear to my heart because of personal experiences. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk with you about this, Will.
Yeah. I knew it was something that you were passionate about because I saw you doing the fundraiser with Crackle Tunes & Co. So I think it would be a good time to get you on this podcast. All right.
Yeah, myself and Kitty Pants, we have our own personal story. She's got it affects her a lot more with her being a woman, but from my aspect, this can at least be from the men's perspective and everything. So
yeah, of course. No, yeah. And some of that stuff, Platt, I am sure will cover. So feel free to, as we go through this, bring up any of your personal experiences if you're comfortable doing so. I'm more than okay with that. Mm-hmm. But yes, let me give a little welcome in to everyone that is here for the live recording, who I'm going to be blabbing with. By the way, chat, I will not be reading every single message out loud, but I will try to get in stuff that is on topic onto stream if you are adding to the conversation. So, welcome in Zari, welcome in Sage, welcome in Lamination, welcome into Floshed as well. And C-Bean as well. Welcome in, and probably some other people that I've forgotten. Oh, Nightantis as well. There we go.
Nitanius Eclipse.
Nitanius. Okay. Why did I say Lantis? Where am I making up these letters from?
That's my best buddy.
Hey, there you go. Alrighty. So Platt opens up in this chapter talking about how, up until a few years ago from the time of him writing this book, he barely talked about this topic. He saw this more as a political issue, and he failed to realize that abortion is a biblical issue, which he had great need to be deeply concerned about, right? Mm-hmm. There's... and I feel like a lot of people, especially within the church, end up falling into that as well, right? Because abortion is one of those things that is hot button in Congress, in at the state level and stuff like that, and so it's become politicized quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those issues that. It's not a simple issue to talk about. It's not one of those things that is easy to talk about, and there's a lot of different factors that can play into certain things, and unfortunately the way that it's treated by society is that it's a it's a all or nothing, or type of political issue, and that gets a lot of people heated really quickly, to where if you're not with me, then you're my enemy type of thing. And it doesn't matter what you have to say, it doesn't matter what you believe or anything like that. If you're on the other side of the fence, you are enemy number one.
Yeah, no, it's gosh, it is ridiculously divisive, that's for sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, also welcome in Mr. Montana as well. Good to have you here. But yeah, so I will admit that I at a time did fall into that, like, oh, it's a political issue camp for a while, until at my Baptist collegiate ministry we kind of talked through it one night, and I started to realize, oh no, wait, this is bigger than a political issue, and the impact that it has on lives. So Platt gives some statistics here. There are 42 million abortions that occur every year. That is 115,000 abortions daily. That is 6 digits of abortions that happen on a daily basis. So he titles this chapter Modern Holocaust, because, like, comparing the numbers between the mass murder of 6 million Jewish men and compared to the 42 million abortions that occur yearly, the two are like night and day.
Yeah. It's when we did the fundraiser for the anti-abortion foundation that we were supporting, there was a video that we played at the beginning of it that I think it went through like various different years of the past, like 20 no I'm sorry, it was the world's greatest tragedies for like most amount of lives lost, and it was like each BB that hits this tin can represents 10 lives that were lost. And so, like, it goes through like World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, and then when it gets, and so like each time it's like increasing the number of pellets that hit this can, and then when it did the this is the number of abortions that happened in 2024, I think was the year that they gave, and it just sounded like a waterfall, and it was just it was so gut-wrenching to hear.
Wow. Jeez, yeah. So it is massive, yes. So so Platt then goes on here to talk about, kind of coming into the first main section, unless there's anything else you wanted to add to that opening bit.
No, not yet.
All right. The section titled "For All of Us" on page 60. If you're following if you're in the main book, I don't know what page it's on for the little books, but it gives this example of this woman named Abby, in her early 20s, grew up in a Christian home, attended a Christian school, and then she ends up getting pregnant. At that point, everything starts crashing down around her. This can't be, she thought. I can't have a baby. My reputation will be ruined, my family will be shamed, and my career will be over. And so, through this panic and fear, she thought that the only solution there was to go to an abortion clinic and have this situation in her mind rectified. And she ended up just returning to business, hiding the secrets as if it never happened. And countless people end up in these same shoes. Some like more, some like lowballing estimates here approximate 1/3 of American women have had or will have an abortion at some point in their lives.
Mm-hmm. So, I will just be very forthright and upfront about a couple of things. So, Kitty and I started dating, and before we were married, we were having premarital sex, and that led to her being pregnant, and we both came from religious homes, and we were both, followers of Christ, and it was an incredibly difficult situation for us to be in. I was in college. She was trying to figure out what she wanted to do with her life, and she was working full time, trying to pay for because her dad had paid for her to go to college for something that didn't work out, and it was for a plan that she didn't want to do, and it was against like what she wanted to do, because her dad was pretty much like, this is what you're gonna do, and so she ended up dropping out of college, out of the program, and so then she was working full time to try and pay off that semester of college, and while she was pregnant, the amount of horrible behavior from our peers, our neighbors, people that we saw every day that didn't give us a second glance or were polite to us, to our faces, suddenly treated us differently. And they called Kitty all sorts of mean and horrible things. They would shun her, and there was just all sorts of nastiness that was going on. But then also, she was also approached by one of these pregnancy care clinics that tried to pressure her into getting an abortion, citing these statistics and saying things like, oh, well, not sorry, I've got it. There were other people that were pressuring her to get an abortion. The pregnancy care center was one of the ones.
Would not do
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. They were the ones that were providing like ultrasounds and actual care, prenatal care for her. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But there were other people that were like pressuring her to go and get an abortion, and saying like, oh, you've got your whole life ahead of you. And it was a very difficult, trying time. Now, I say all of this, thankfully, she did not give in to the whims of these people that were pressuring her. And we kept our faith that everything was going to be okay. And, that was at what point, whenever I was finishing up college to do firefighting and EMS, and so we were doing the best that we could. And when Buggy was born, all of that fear and worry and everything seemed to vanish, not only from our minds, but also from everybody around us. Pretty much, there were still some people that were just like really rude and obnoxious to us, I'll help you in a second here. But you know, the horribleness and the nastiness all just disappeared once Buggy was actually born, and it was so strange, the amount of people that were like, one day they were just like, oh, I can't believe you're pregnant, you should totally get an abortion because you've got your whole life ahead of you, to then once Buggy was born, it was like, oh my gosh, let me see the baby type of thing. It was like night and day from some of these people.
Wow.
And so, but you know, having experienced all that and then knowing today the way that my life turned out, I wouldn't change anything for the world because of having to be able to experience Buggy's life and her growing up. Has it been frustrating? Absolutely. It has been the most challenging and frustrating experience of my life to be a dad, but it's also been the most rewarding thing.
Good. Yes. Yeah, that's encouraging. Also, there is a pop-up over top of you asking for something.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll fix that.
Yeah, but though you got a little something on your face, yes. So welcome in, Squirrel. Mr. Misfit, I will get to your question there because I feel like I do plan to answer that as a part of one of the sections coming up. So put a pin in that, and I'll get that squared away. But yes, no, yeah, and frankly, you and Kitty are not alone in that scenario. There's a lot of the world. Yeah, like I want to just, Squirrel at thanking you for sharing that. Yeah, because like there are people that might be listening to this that could end up in those situations. Like there's or maybe are in them now. But the it's
I have to swap to my camera. I'm sorry, because Kitty's trying to use her model. So, and there's VTuber Studios being stupid.
Okay, gotcha. Again, like 1/3 of all American women will experience that, like a third, and like that means within chat right now, the odds are there will be someone that will encounter that. And Platt then goes on to say that he wants to be sensitive to women that have had abortions. So my uncle actually is a director for a pregnancy care center in my area. I've actually had him on. Y'all can on the VODs channel. You can. I interviewed him for one of these videos early on into us doing theology on here. Because I wanted to go straight into to making sure that that this issue is talked about on my channel for sure. Look at that beautiful face, indeed. So with all that, like, yeah, and what my uncle says, because like he experiences a lot of people that's like had the abortion, that did go through with it, and live in so much regret. There's like the amount of emotional weight that it does specifically to the mother. It's always to the mother, less so to the father. Whenever those things happens is tremendous, and so there's always a need for grace there. Also, welcome in Frey, and welcome in AZ 1980s. Welcome in. But yes, also AZ here adding in when Mother was pregnant with also I'm just now meeting you, AZ. Should I be using he or she there? So the mother was pressured by pregnancy care doctors to get an abortion. Wait, pregnancy care? That is not pregnancy care. If they were the ones pressuring to get an abortion, that sounds a little backwards, but okay. Oh, wow, that is interesting. Welcome in the pro as well. We've got so many people in chat today. Wow. Apparently everyone this topic has intrigued people. Yes, welcome in. So yeah, this is something that we have to be gracious about towards such individuals, because man, it is hard, but praise be to God that he's the one that takes away sin and guilt.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So, anything else you wanted to add on for this section in the book?
No, I don't think so.
No. All right, moving on to the second section, heading God and the Unborn. So this is where we start to get into the why. Why are we saying that it's bad? Frankly, I kind of wish that we started with that up front, but we're walking through it as Platt wrote it. So basically, the I mean, we have various verses here that talk about how God himself views the unborn. We have verses like Psalm 139 here. If you want to go ahead and read that one off.
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So read the Psalm 139, 13 through 16.
Yes, exactly.
All right. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, for my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them.
Exactly. So God is the one that knits together someone even within the womb, right? And he gives a bunch of other verses, such as Job 33 and Job 12 and Deuteronomy 32:39. And all of these speak to God being the giver, the giver of life. And so the and also you also I'll add on another one that Platt doesn't mention. When so the first person to like recognize Jesus for who he is was John the Baptist from within the womb before he was even born, because the Spirit of God was within him from the womb. So if someone could have the Holy Spirit within them, they're a person. Yes.
Yeah, it's to think about, like, the fact that that the Holy Spirit dwells within us even before we're even born, before we even really know Christ, is just so amazing and powerful. And I actually was sitting in my car this morning, and I was just kind of, I was praying because, you know, this past week, Kitty had such a good week for her pain and stuff, and she was not in a whole lot of pain and was able to get up and move around, even like go out to the store or anything like that. Are you able to hear her in the background? I just want to make sure that.
No, not really.
Okay, all right, because I don't want to affect your recording, because if so, I can go walk back to my booth if that makes it easier.
Yeah, I haven't noticed anything yet, so you're good.
Okay, all right. So, but I was sitting in my car this morning, and I was brought to tears because I was kind of lamenting on the fact that despite all of the things that I've done wrong in my life, despite all of the mistakes that I've made, even as far like my sins and things like premarital sex and swearing and everything that I've done throughout my life, and that the Holy Spirit cleanses us, from that. And I was brought to tears by the fact that, like, I was just like, why me? Why go through all of that pain for me, for you, for us? You didn't have to. He could have been like, well, humanity is a failed experiment. So we're just gonna shake the etch and sketch and start over, and being a dad, I get it. Like, not to the degree of our Heavenly Father, but like, I get it.
Yeah, no. As someone that is still single, like, no, I've not experienced that specifically, but no, there's been so many sins that I've had over the years where I've had that thought, and it reminds me of the of this hymn that I love. How sweet and awful is the place. Awful meaning all filled, not all. Anyways, and it says in one of the verses there, each of us cry with thankful tongues, Lord, why was I a guest? Why was I made to hear thy voice and enter while there's room, when thousands made a wretched choice and rather starve than come? Right. It is that same love that sweetly drew us in and perished in our sin. Yes. So sweet. But yes, so Sage here asking if our stance has any sort of wiggle room. Yeah, I should probably come out and just kind of say what the stance is. So because we view this as a person, therefore it is murder to do an abortion, because that is, if you are ending a life, which that does count as a life. By the definition of murder is a murder. So, is there any sort of wiggle room? Not really. The only thing that I would even fathom to excuse is if it is both a risk to the life of both the mother and the child together, which is extremely rare. Let's make that very clear. So I would say, legislation wise, it ought to be counted as murder.
So here's some more food for thought, and because I know that the popular talking point is, well, what if the life is in danger for the mother and things. Medically speaking, terminology wise, that is not classified as an abortion to terminate that pregnancy if the life of the child or the mother is in danger. It is called a medically terminated pregnancy, because the title of the procedure matters, because they are done differently. A medically terminated pregnancy typically involves a medication that is given that ends the life of the fetus, the unborn child, and then that child is, if it is not surgically removed through the use of an actual surgery, like if it's a ectopic pregnancy, they have to go in there surgically and remove that from there. But if it is something that is causing a threat to the life of the mother or the baby, they would give a medication that causes the mother to go into labor, and she delivers that baby early. And it is not a pleasant experience for anybody. And Whereas an abortion, they give the medication. They give a medication to the woman that dilates her cervix, and they go in with tools, and they. I don't want to be too graphic about this because I want to be sensitive to Twitch and to you and to the viewers, but
Sure.
there's not a whole lot else way to explain it, but they remove the fetus piece by piece, and not only is that horrifying to think about, but there have been many times where it has gone wrong, tissue is left in, and it causes sepsis, where the tissue rots inside of the uterus of the woman, and it can cause a far greater issue if they don't properly do it. And I've seen so many videos of women on these college campuses that are like having these arguments with these people that go there to try and spread awareness or protest, or even if it's to cause a nuisance, because I've seen people that go there just to be argumentative, and I don't care much for people that just go there to argue, but the that this process takes almost no time at all for them to go in and out, and they treat it, these women that are, they beat their chest saying, oh, I'm so glad that I did this or whatever, they treat it like it's a form of birth control. And it's, I mean, again, like being a dad and knowing everything that I've been through with my child.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying real hard not to cry about this too.
Sure.
Knowing everything that I've been through with my child, that experience being ripped away from somebody else, it hurts, you know. So
Absolutely. No, yeah. Thank you for sharing, dude.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and frankly, also, this is, we described how one dies on a Roman crucifix last week. So this is just 2 for 2 on having some kind of graphic imagery in the series. So we're good there. But yeah, so I mean, Zara here in chat saying that, like, thinking about the verse we were reading, that where it says we're knit together, handmade by God, and her thinking of the things that she's made with her hands and how special those become to her, right? So to then, and this is, it brings up, this leads really well into something else that Platt says here. Imagine for a moment, in at the moment of this creation, right? So thinking about this this intimate work of art that God is knitting together in the womb, inserting a tool or taking a pill or undergoing an operation that takes the very life that God is developing and destroys it. And he goes on to say that most abortions happen between 10 and 14 weeks of gestation, which is, it's described as the optimal time. Described by those that are pro-abortion as the optimal time for dismemberment and removal. Dismemberment there. Let's not gloss over that word. Abortion is without question an assault on God's grand creation of a human life, and there's no way around it. Yeah, like, man, just to think of it in that sense, it is attack. It is an attack on the image of God, because mankind, we can go back to the we did a video on this channel about what a human is when we covered anthropology in our worldview and philosophy series. So And our definition of a human involves the fact that we are made in the image of God. That's part of what sets us apart from any other creature under the sun. And as a result, like, this is an attack on the creator's creation, but also on the creator himself because of what a human represents.
Yeah. It's I'm sorry. I looked over in chat and I saw Soldier's question, and I was gonna discuss that whenever you brought it up. But yeah, the fact that God knows how many hairs are on our head, knows everything that we're gonna do throughout our life, and it's almost unfathomable. To think about it, like the vastness of God's knowledge and God's position in our lives is almost unfathomable because of the like when, like, the other day I was talking about this on my stream, and just to talk about like God's plan and stuff, for just a second, for a short tangent.
Sure.
In in the book of John, I think, when they were discussing the story of it was either James or John, but it was when John was walking on water. The story is a little bit different in that book, where it talks about how Christ had told his disciples, "Hey, go across the water. I'll meet you over there." And it's 3:00 in the morning. Here comes Christ walking out on the water, and he saw that his disciples, his friends, were struggling in this storm, and their ship was being battered by waves and everything like that. And it says in this particular verse, like, Christ had intended to walk on by them. Like, he wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to stop and help them. And so, like, when you think about it, like, in that aspect of like, oh, well, God's got a plan for everybody, and like, that's the plan. The plan was for them to get across the water. The plan wasn't, Christ didn't tell them, "Hey, I'll meet you on the other side, unless you run into a storm," or anything like that. Like it's but he stops because he wanted to, because he loved them, and wanted to help them. But the initial plan had never changed. And so, like, when I had a conversation with one of my atheist friends about this, and it was, well, if God's all knowing and knows every decision, then why doesn't he just make everybody Christian? Why doesn't he make everybody worship him? And it's like, well, because we have free will, and he wants us to have that free will. And he goes, well, then if he knows every decision that I'm going to make, then why create me knowing that I don't believe in him? And so my response to that is that God lays out a plan for us, almost like a GPS, and there's an end destination. And when you're driving in your car and you make a wrong turn, your GPS is going to tell you you've made a wrong turn. Go back this way to get back onto the path, and things like that. Or you can continue to ignore it and drive your own way and drive wherever you want. But if that GPS still has those initial coordinates put into it, it's still going to try and pull you back to that road that it wants you to go, and get you to that end destination. And that was kind of like a speechless point for him. And I was like, yes. But, when it comes to, God's plan and stuff like that, like, I fully think that this was that us having buggy pants, totally intended by God. Maybe not the way that he maybe wanted, but I couldn't imagine my life without her at this point.
Yeah.
And so like even though what we did was sinful, um it ended with something that has blessed my life a million times over. And with Kitty's medical conditions and things like that, getting pregnant alone was incredibly difficult for her, or would have been if we were like trying intentionally. But the fact that it just happened by chance when it did, and then my life has worked out just so, it really just kind of seemed like God was like, yeah, you need this tiny human in your life.
Oh, so, amen. No, because God's sovereignty, his goodness will come to fruition. When God is determined to make the good happen, the good will happen. And Buggy is one such evidence of that. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. And Mr. Misfit in here asks, talking about how he and his wife have been trying for children, and due to medical issues cannot conceive. Actually, in David Platt here, the author of this book, had a very similar testimony, because like he and his wife Heather walked many, he doesn't say how many years here, but he walked so many years of infertility. So not in this book, but though, and like I've heard him tell the story of how like he ended up adopting first, I think, because they just kind of like gave up on thinking that they could ever conceive. So their first kid was an adoption. So, but then the pure joy that filled their hearts when they found out that his wife Heather was pregnant. Finally, there was a baby living inside of her, Platt writes. The beginning of life for a boy who now reads every book put in front of him and runs around his house doing taekwondo. News on him and the rest of the family. And from the beginning, that boy was a person, not a clump of cells, right? So I guess kind of what another thing that he brings up here is talking about when Princess Kate of England announced that she was pregnant. Every single news outlet started referring to that child as the heir to the throne. There's a lot of significance made about this child before even being born. And no one called that child a blob of cells or anything dehumanizing like that. Anyone that would do so would be blasted and looked down upon. Yet that is not the same with ordinary persons, right? For some reason, this ended up being an exception. And a lot of people, I mean, this goes into what you were talking about, I see, with the people around you. When Buggy was in the womb, she was viewed as something less than human. And then it did not surprise me to hear that after she was born, everyone changed their tune, because that's when people started to view her as a person, right? That was a perception change.
So the to kind of discuss this from the political viewpoint of this, the reason why the people that support abortion refer to it as a clump of cells is because when you define it as something that isn't living, it doesn't feel as icky whenever you're committing murder. Like if you don't associate it with life. And I've seen so many like celebrities on online that whenever they were pregnant and stuff, like I remember seeing Beyonce whenever she was pregnant and talking about it online and so excited. She's like, oh, I can't wait to meet my baby and this, that, and the other. But like just a couple of years prior, or months, or however long it was, was like putting up tweets like, it's just a clump of cells, get over it, like yada yada yada. And it's like, oh, so it's a baby when you want to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. And the wording that we use absolutely matters, right? It's done that way intentionally, right? Like the LGBTQ stuff used to be called sodomy. That word no longer is in use anymore because by them phasing that word out, that is how they started to normalize it, right? So our language and our vocab matters, and I am always an advocate for vocab on this channel.
That's it. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. So that brings us to the next section, which we've already pretty much covered here. The key question is David Platt asked the key question: what is contained in the womb? A person or merely an embryo? What or who is in the womb? And once that question is answered, everything else then comes into perspective, right? So, there's a bunch of questions that he kind of starts unfolding here, such as a woman should have the right to choose. We that sounds good on paper, and the real question is not whether the woman has a choice, but considering if that is a human being in that womb, right? Are we to take away? We are overriding the will of the child there in that scenario.
And even a little bit more than that too is that sometimes
can you up your game?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to pick up Kitty.
Fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Can we pause for just a second? I'm gonna go swap.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay though. I'm gonna swap PCs. It's fine. So I will be right back, Will. I'm so sorry.
Sounds good.
All right.
So yeah, like just talking about the man. I mean, to say like it defeats the choice of the child. You could say when you say that it should be the mom's right to choose. Because here's the thing. Here is why I am adamant on us for all these points here.
Because that's the second part of this is how much, like, who gets what rights and who has the right to life, who has the right to I guess there's no way around it, like the right to comfort, the right to do what you want and everything, and the kind of too, like there's also the right of the father in this, because I've seen stories of a woman who goes and they want to have an abortion, and the father of that baby has zero say whatsoever in that aspect, even though that's his life that is also inside of her, and there's zero say there either. So
yeah, also welcoming glitch porn. But yeah, seriously though, like he gives this illustration of if a doctor came to the hospital room and instead of caring for this newborn child, took the life even while on the mother's breast, that would be considered a homicide. But yet people seem to beg to differ for some reason. And that there is why, you know, for every single like case that you could come up with for excuses why people do abortions, that like if you were to say the same thing, but that child were to be outside of the womb, you would not end that child's life.
Right.
Yeah. Alrighty. I feel like most of the points that are in this section we kind of ended up covering as we went through other sections. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okie dokies.
I'm trying to bring the book back up in here now. So
I think, did you just swap mics?
I mean, technically, yeah, I swapped mics. Why is it not sounding so good?
No, it sounds kind of boxed.
Hold on.
Did you? Yeah. Is it like using a webcam mic or something?
Shouldn't be.
It was.
Called it. I knew it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. Oh, I only picked the best looking people for the series. Why I've never been on. No, I only picked the best sounding people for these series. The looks have nothing to do with it. But yes, the whatchamacallit. So we will move on to this section titled Wonderful Works. So in here, Platt starts talking about something we covered already, that abortion assaults God's work in creation, and just the just the intimacy therein, and just how at odds all of this is. And I think this is the section where Soldier's question from earlier about if someone is sexually assaulted, should they, is that a reasonable excuse for an abortion?
So this is definitely one of those like complicated questions, right? Because there's multiple working parts here. Because while I feel like sexual assault is extremely detrimental to the mental health of the individual who went through that, there are things that you can do to somewhat deal with and move forward with your life from that point forward. And I say that as someone who has survived experiences like that. You can still move forward with your life. Now, in the cases where it ends with a pregnancy, not only number one is that very rare when it comes to that. And I don't want to downplay this at all, but like, oh, who cares? It barely ever happens, because it is a horrifying experience for anybody to go through. And I don't want to downplay that at all. But the statistics that are given currently, you can look it up. It's 1 in 20 women who experiences sexual assault, which is already a bigger than zero number, so it's horrible, but it's not like hundreds of millions of cases, but 1 in 20 women who experience sexual assault will end up being pregnant. And the thing is that when that happens, you are punishing an innocent child for the sins of their father. And that, to me, feels unfair.
Yeah.
I understand the thinking behind this, where it's like, oh, but whenever that woman sees that baby, they're going to see, that same event that happened to them. And I understand and I sympathize with that. But that doesn't mean that that child needs to die for the sins of someone else.
Yeah. And I completely agree, because that is unjust and frankly backwards. If anything, I would argue for I think we covered this during our week of anthropology, that just capital punishment, essentially, right? Capital punishment, I do think, there's so many people that are against the capital punishment in general of anyone, even murderers. And yet here we are wanting to bring capital punishment onto the innocent, onto a child. If you were to wish for capital punishment to happen, why not on the man that committed the assault there, or woman if that was the assaulter? But yeah.
I mean, my personal beliefs, that you should absolutely get capital punishment if you harm a child. Adults who do not nice things with children, be them abusers, murderers, or molesters. And
so all acts of pedophilia.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you are a rapist, now I think that the reason why this is such a dangerous path to walk is because of the number of false reportings, or the number of, I guess it would still be considered a false report, like if it was consensual, but there was, what they teach us in the military is that if somebody's had even a drop of alcohol in their system, they no longer gain the ability to consent. So like even if you both were feeling the vibes and whatnot, if you had any sort of alcohol and then somebody wakes up the next morning, it's a race to the phone, is essentially what it comes down to. And that's what they beat into our heads. So it's like, oh, if either one of you have been drinking, don't do anything, because all it takes is a phone call up your chain of command and then you're done. And so I think that's what's kind of like steering away from the idea of doing capital punishment for rapists. But I think that if you start taking those cases seriously and start doing actual due diligent investigations, instead of just either one, trying to paint everything with a blanket brush, and actually doing investigations and things, that it would start deterring these things from happening. There's still going to be stupid people, and that's the unfortunate reality. You're not ever going to get to zero, because evil exists in this world.
Yeah.
But the hope is to get closer to zero.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there, soldier. And yeah, so we and again, this all circles back to the fact that we see a child in the womb as a child as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, like if that child were to be outside of the womb, no one would dare to think about ending that child's life to solve the problem. Anyone that would think that, we would call insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a it's such a dumb argument to make for like, oh well, it's a life whenever it's viable outside the womb. And it's like my 5-year-old is not viable, like, or when Buggy was 5. When Buggy was 5, she was not viable on her own without some sort of help from her mother or I.
Yeah.
Like, she couldn't make food for herself. She couldn't like hardly do anything, even at 5 years old. Like, they're not viable on their own. So like, at what point do you draw that line of like, oh well, they're viable outside the womb or whatever like that? Is it like, is it breathing? Well, what about children that have to be placed in NICU and they have to be put on a ventilator and the machine is doing the breathing for them, and what about children who need assistance with living, children born with Down syndrome or some sort of special needs or anything like that. What if they're born with only one leg? Like, it's where do you draw this line that apparently continues to move of what's viable, what's not viable, where do you draw this line?
Absolutely, yeah. And also, just adding on to that, I think you mentioned. I think we ended up. I think I actually skipped over where Platt mentions that within that first trimester, which is the time when most abortions happen, there's already a heartbeat. There are already, like the makings of a human body there. All the limbs you would count as a human. So anatomically speaking, we would even classify that as a human. So it is purely the fact that it is within the womb. That is the only thing that people are really using to say that this is somehow lesser. But as you were just describing with all your examples, there is not too much of a difference other than just where they're at in the development stage, which we're children even outside the womb are still developing. So yeah,
right. And I don't know, I can't verify this because it was like a video that I saw on Twitter, and but I'm choosing to believe it as headcanon. But there was there I remember seeing this video where it was somebody talking about that at the moment they were watching an egg be fertilized on a microscopic, like a very, very zoomed in. I can't remember. I'm bad with words, but it was really zoomed in, and they were able to watch it happen. And there was a flash of light that was given off at the moment of fertilization. And again, I don't know how true that is. I can't verify it, but I'm choosing to believe that is something because it fits with, this, idea that God is light and love, and within us is that light. And so for it to spark at conception is pretty incredible.
That's wild. That is wild.
Mm-hmm. I'll see if I can find that for you. I'll also
Sure.
send you something very interesting that I learned about DNA sequences, which I had heard that I had watched somebody talking about it, that the DNA sequences spells out Yahweh in our DNA chains through groups of chromosomes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little things that people point you for things like that. But yes, so another thing, coming back to Platt's book, I don't really have a good way to get us out of this rabbit hole. I'm just going to yoink us.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the other things that he brings up is, and this is something that I wasn't aware of before I read this book, is how many those with disabilities, because they're able to tell whether a child will have Down syndrome and things along those lines while they are in the womb. And this is where I got blown away by this statistic. Do y'all know how many of these prenatal diagnoses of Down syndrome ended up with the choice of terminating that pregnancy? How many after they hear the diagnosis of Down syndrome terminate their pregnancy? It is 92%. 92% of women who receive that diagnosis will end the pregnancy. And then Platt goes on to give this example of a child with Down syndrome that goes to his church, and how he loves when this child always comes up and gives him a hug, shakes his hand almost every Sunday. Oh man! And to think that boy's name is Thomas. We're killing. He says that we're killing 90% of the Thomases within our culture.
I've had the pleasure of meeting adults with Down syndrome, and they act and behave as if they are still toddlers, because they just don't develop the same way that we do, and they still can function. For most of the time they can still function. It's just that their brain doesn't comprehend and develop in the same way. So they're still able to. Some of them need help getting dressed. Some of them need help with various tasks and things like that. Some can make their own dinner and live on their own. But because it's this wide spectrum of how much care does this person need. But I've had the utmost pleasure of meeting several individuals, and they are some of the sweetest people that I've ever met in my life. They're some of the most innocent people that will always greet you with a smile. They'll always be friendly to you. They're very questioning because they still have that like toddler, childlike wonder in their brain. At least the ones that I've interacted with. Where it's like, oh, what are you doing? Why? What? Well, that's cool. Look at this. And they're just such amazing individuals. And like you said, like I can't even fathom that those individuals, 92% of them are being aborted, and that's horrible.
Yeah, for real. So Platt then goes on to say, some people will ask, have you no care for the emotions of the woman? Oh, actually, no, hold on. We covered this already. This is the rapist example. Never mind. All right, moving on. We do not have to double dip into that. Anything else from this section that you wanted to know before we move on?
No, I'm good. What section are we going to next?
God the Judge.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Alrighty. So, in this section, God the Judge. So, he starts off by saying abortion is an affront to God's authority as creator, an assault on God's work in creation, and thirdly, an attack on God's relationship with the unborn. So, this kind of goes back to my example of John the Baptist even being able to have interactions with the Holy Spirit and sense Jesus's presence from within the womb, right? So, God is holy and righteous, the judge of all. He hates injustice, and most of all, he detests the taking of innocent life. So, anything you wanted to add on to that?
We as humans like to think that we're in control of our own destiny, and we try and use that line of thinking to sort of justify, in this respect, in this context, justify the taking of the life of an unborn child. And so we kind of pass that judgment upon these children in that respect of like, oh well, I know what I'm doing, I know what's best for me, so I'm going to get rid of this life because I don't want it, and it's being judge, jury, and executioner to another life that isn't yours to take. And in most cases is a situation that you caused.
Yeah.
And rather than be responsible, they pass that they pass that, you know, judgment on in the form of murder.
Yeah, absolutely. But here, Platt says God is the one that is the judge of those doctors who has performed those abortions. And Platt even goes on to say the leaders who have permitted them and the pastors who have counseled people to even have them and the legislators who have made abortion possible. So then the rest of the chapter, he starts talking about the role of government in all of this. Should we legislate the end of abortion, or should we just teach that it's bad?
Again, this is a multifaceted question, because when you look at it from, like, as what Soldier was asking earlier about, like, you know, sexual assault and things like that, like those are the tough questions that have to go into making those kinds of decisions. I think that 100% it should, at a bare minimum, be taught that it's wrong. But when it comes to cases where it's like, you know, the life of the mother is at stake, you know, I think that, number one, as I said earlier, it's defined differently. It's defined as a medically terminated pregnancy. I would even go as far as to say that you'd really have to really convince me that that you would need an actual abortion versus you know, carrying that child to term and you know, actually handling the life that you created.
Yeah, absolutely. So Platt does say, like, he brings up Romans 13 to kind of give what the role of government is, right? That God has appointed government for good, and that government ultimately exists under God's authority. There is no authority outside of God. And so therefore government should reflect that morality, right? It should, at the bare minimum, care for the weak and the poor and the oppressed, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to have all of the even if you don't want to have all of the whatchamacallit, we don't have to legislate literally everything that's in the Bible to be into our law, but though like the government's role to you know, make sure the oppressed aren't oppressed. That's why abortion falls into their hands.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, interesting. We have interesting. We have someone with counterpoints. I always love when someone has counterpoints in the chat. So I always encourage people to speak up. I don't want people to just feel like they are being hated or shunned for having a different opinion. But so the interesting. So this person Meshafati. Is that how I'm pronouncing this?
Mecca 51. It's just Mecca.
Mecca. Okay.
Yeah.
So arguing that scientists, philosophers, sociologists, and lawmakers have taken an evidence-based approach to determining what is and what is not a human being, what is lawful, and citing that our heartbeat is not a unique characteristic. I would, I'm curious at Mecca why you would say a heartbeat is not a unique characteristic when someone's heartbeat stops. That is frankly what is ends someone's life, right? A heartbeat is very much deeply entwined with life itself. And then going on to say deeply respect the faith. But no, we're not trying to force views on others. I mean, evidently, because I am reading your opinions out loud here. Heard a light tension between perspective on medically induced premature births. And to round out this question, how do you both feel about people pushing back on your views, both people in your personal lives, but also law/decision makers?
So I welcome people to push back on my views because iron sharpens iron. Yeah. If I ever get to a point in my life where I say, oh, I know everything that there is to know about the Bible, about God, about faith, or anything like that, I want somebody to slap the fire out of me because that's just not true. And I wholeheartedly accept these differing views because that's what makes us human, is the ability to think and process information and see things from different perspectives. I mean, I had lunch today with someone who is very agnostic, and he and I had a theological debate about the existence of Christ. And he brought up various different cited sources of people who said that they can prove that certain pieces of the Bible were recorded long before the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so he brought up like what is it, the Book of Gilgamesh, I think is what he was referring to. He was talking about various different things, and so at the end of the day, we walked away from it. I had to leave after lunch or whatever, but I walked away from it not going, well, that guy's an idiot. I'm still friends with him. I still am going to talk to him. I don't agree with his points that he made, and I'm going to continue to do research based upon what he and I discussed. But I am always down for someone to have a conversation with me and to challenge my viewpoints of my faith, of my world, and everything. Yeah. But as far as like what you were asking about, scientists, philosophers, sociologists, and lawmakers have taken evidence-based approach to determining what is and is not a human being and what is and isn't lawful. A heartbeat is not a unique characteristic. While I see your follow-up there where, animals have heartbeats, and that is correct. It's not a unique characteristic of a human being to have a heartbeat. However, it is a trait that a living human has, that they have while they're in the womb as early as the first trimester.
Yeah. And again, kind of going off of that, like, I don't know if that comparison of animals having heartbeat is, apples to apples, because what sets a human apart from animals is the fact that we believe that humans are made in the image of God, right? Humans are unique in creation. Because here's the thing. If humans were if you come from a naturalistic perspective of like humans were just an accident that's happened as a result of evolution, then like yeah, you're right. There is no reason for us to care about whether they're in the womb or not. There's if everything is an accident, if there is no significance to the human race, then frankly, murder would be legal. Period. Because it's about the who is best fit to survive at that point. So we
Right.
have to have order to society. And also the fact that we are made in the image of God, that we are set apart and have a unique role within created order. That also adds weight to when the heartbeat of someone is forcefully stopped versus the heartbeat of an animal forcefully stopped.
Right. Because when we're discussing like a child before it's born, because the argument then turns into what dictates something not being alive, and is it a controlled regular heartbeat? Well, what about people with pacemakers? Are they not alive? What about people that are in a coma? Are they not alive because their brain isn't functioning and they're not able to sit up and have conscious discussion with you and eat their food themselves or anything like that? Like what dictates whether or not something is alive or dead? And typically it is that heartbeat. And that's the one thing that you really need to continue life. Your blood has to move through your body. It has to supply your organs with oxygen and allow your cells to continue to replicate and continue to grow and function the way that you were biogenetically engineered. Well, not biogenetically, but the way that you're engineered as a human. And so like, yeah. So getting back to it, like I understand the idea of saying, well, like a heartbeat's not a unique trait. That's true. But when we're talking about the life and death of a baby before it's born, that heartbeat, brain activity is kind of something, because we were just talking about brain activity and disabilities and things in before they were born, which are things that we can see beforehand. But like that heartbeat is one of the key defining traits of that baby being alive when it's in the womb. No heartbeat in the womb, that baby's not circulating blood, it's not going to be alive. And there's nothing that you can unfortunately do about that. And that's when stillbirths come into play.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if they lose that heartbeat within the womb, they are dead. Yes. Brain activity is welcome in Lon. Also welcome in Apple as well. Brain activity, very similar, just to what we were just talking about here with even that, because I believe the brain activity also starts around the same time, right?
I'll look real quick.
Yeah. Mecca arguing a lot of functions are essential and that a heartbeat is no more relevant than being able to cast a shadow, but the human experience requires consciousness. Interesting. So, yeah, and so brain activity, that you're looking that up now. Consciousness.
6th week is when brain activity starts.
6th week. Yeah.
6th week.
So that
the neural tube, which forms the brain and spinal cord, closes at the end of the 4th week, and basic brain activity starts at around the 6th week.
Yeah. So even then, because oh boy, what was the period that most abortions happen? Because I feel like that falls
first trimester. So
yeah, it's not. It's usually there's usually a minimum. It's not like the first month usually.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. I think he said it somewhere in this book. About what weeks most abortions happen in, but yes. Also, welcome, Alexito. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome in. Great to meet you. But yeah, so No, yeah, I would still argue that the whatchamacallit, even with those definitions there, at the end of the day, I would want to like kind of ask you a question, Mecca, if that's all right. So at what point do we say that they are alive and a person? Like, how do you define that? Because if you're saying it's consciousness, they still have consciousness while in the womb. So I would say it's the most arbitrary thing you could do is say that it's whether they're in the womb or not, because I don't see that one as valid simply because a lot of the just all the things that Icy was mentioning here, you have a lot of people outside of the womb that can be just as dependent as one in the womb, and then also going not to just like shake the Bible at you, but the fact that God even treats those in the womb as persons as well.
Okay, so he said, I don't disagree with you at all. Being in the womb or not is not the line that I've heard be drawn.
Okay, interesting. So where would you draw the line there, Mecca? I'm curious. Glitchborn trifling the territory and boldly say, scientists say nowadays becomes a shallow argument if we considered the lies for more gain, and over the couple centuries, science after Tesla is just a tool of war and sometimes political correctness. That honestly, that I vibe with that so much because you're right. If you look behind all sorts of different scientific studies, there are always someone gaining from it because someone has to sponsor it, right? The science only goes where the money is, and because someone has to pay their bills, which is why when like Dyson came out with those like blade that like fast moving blade type hair hand dryer, you had scientists that were paid by other competing companies talk about how much bacteria that throws around in the air, such arbitrary things to like try to attack Dyson, right? So
I remember seeing a episode of Dr. Oz where they were talking about that, where he had like put like glow in the dark paint on his hands, and he's like, these are germs, and he went and washed his hands and then used the air dryer, and then they turned off the lights and his hands were still glowing, and then he's like and then he does the same thing again, washes his hands, and then uses like a paper towel to actually wipe his hands free, and his hands were a lot cleaner from the glow in the dark paint.
Interesting. Okay, so Mecca here saying that consciousness begins to emerge between 24 and 28 weeks. Okay, so Mecca is making an argument for abortion up until the 24th week. Interesting.
Got it. Okay.
Don't consent with the legal line thing, but though thinks that it has been made with intention. Okay. I can respect your view there because at least you are grounding it in something that makes up a human such as consciousness. But though, like, yeah, so I would still stand firm on the basics of the anatomy being there too, because with consciousness, I mean, going back to your I see the example earlier of someone in a coma, right? Yeah. Would we say that person in a coma is still alive? You know, their body is still functioning, their blood is moving, but the brain activity is not there, right? Would would you say that person is alive?
28 weeks is a long time, though. That's a long time for development. And like Mecca, I totally understand and respect you, and respect your you and Lon Lon's walk of life and everything. And I don't want to, tell you that you're awful or you're wrong or anything like that, because I don't think that, like I was saying, like, we all have opinions and we all have differences, and I welcome these challenging statements. So thank you, number one, for having this discussion with us, and being willing to have this discussion, because I know that it may be uncomfortable or difficult, especially with us being such close friends and everything like that. I don't want to put you at off ease or anything like that, but given the personal experience that I have with this and the and everything, I can't subscribe to the 28-week line of like that's where it should be allowed or anything like that.
Yeah, and I would concur on that as well. So Mecca replying to that, pulling the plug is not so he's saying is not the same as assisted suicide, and also wants to second the good faith and the love. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, and I and again, I can respect that opinion, because like you're being consistent there, at least with if they are in and outside of the womb. So I'll give you that much. I'll give you credit there. We're going to continue on with the book here, because we are
sure.
The clock
fast approaching our time limit.
Yeah. But though, we can. So after we're done with the recording, we have open Q&A, so we can continue that discussion after once we finish the recording. So we were talking, though, coming back to the book, about government's role in all of this. So
yes.
So the government is the one that cares for the weak and stuff, right? So so in terms of like saying like, okay, the government should prioritize choice versus the government should prioritize protecting the innocent, right? I would lean towards protecting the innocent.
Right. I would agree with that. And yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that.
Fair enough. Yeah. So with that, whether you believe that it is, that you shouldn't abort at all, or you shouldn't abort until like, what was that, the 24th week? Wherever you draw the line, that line ought to be drawn, right? Because we want to define. So any time that something that we count as a human life is taken, is just extinguished, that we ought to count that as murder from a legislative perspective. And that's why I bring up protecting the innocent and things like that, right? So
right.
Our laws should know what a human is and isn't, and be able to apply the law fairly and justly for all humans.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Anything else you want to add on to that before we move on?
I had something, but it went in one ear and out the other, so.
If it comes back, feel free to interject.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, remember that. So we move on to the section. We've got 2 sections left here: redeemed and restored. He left like his hairline fast. Oh, bless.
Appreciate it, soldier.
So one thing that Platt says here in the book is God is not only the judge of sins, but he's also the savior of sinners. So God is the judge who loathes abortion, again, because of this protecting the innocent type of thing. And also the king, yet also he's the king that will love even those who participated. So hear that good news, right? That God loves you despite your failures, which I see you brought that up earlier.
Correct. Despite the fact that that Buggy was born outside of wedlock, despite the fact that we were having premarital sex, despite the fact that we almost made difficult choices that would have impacted the way that my life is now. I mean, I don't even know if I would be standing here today, this specific spot, if that had happened. Because I mean, because Buggy was born, because the job market crashed right as Buggy was born in 2010, right at the tail end of 2010 into 2011, I was not able to get a job as a firefighter. Because I was not able to get a job as a firefighter, I joined the military. Because I joined the military, I served for 6 years. I took this, contracting job that I'm working now and able to provide for my family. And then here I am being a silly, goofy dragon.
Oh, I think we lost him. But I think he got his whole point in. Yeah. Well, hopefully he will. The internet will unfreeze him. But yeah. So I'll just read off some of the scriptures that Platt cites here, such as. As the heavens are high above the earth, so great is God's mercy towards those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so basically infinity. So that is how far he has removed our transgressions from us. That is Psalm 103. God says that he is the one who blots out our transgressions for his own sake, and that he will not remember our sins in Isaiah 43:25. Right, so he forgives sins entirely, and God does not desire for you or anyone else to live the pain of regret. It is altogether right to hate the sin that you like. Here's the thing: there are things that are worth grieving over in life, right? And that is any effect of the fall and sin. All of that is worth grieving over. Oh, look, Icy suddenly has hair. My placeholder image that I used to give Hoodlum a body is now standing in place of Icy Pants. Oh gosh. But anyways, well, man, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, so sin is worth grieving over. The ultimate effect of sin, of the fact that Adam and Eve ate of the apple, disobeying God, and of the fruit, not specifically an apple, and in doing so brought death upon the world. Death is the ultimate effect of sin, and therefore is always worth grieving over, right? So any time that someone dies, whether we know that their body is going to hell or to heaven, or if we're unsure, it is always worth grieving over, period. However, the Christian does not grieve without hope. There is hope. Because of what Christ accomplished on the cross, by taking death upon himself, by becoming fully man, fully God in the form of Jesus Christ, God was able to experience death and then subsequently defeat it. And that is why we have hope. That is why we have a living hope. And that is the only reason why any effects of death and sin are able to be taken care of, is because of what happened there at Calvary. So all of that to say, if you are someone you know is like lives in that pain of regret of taking a preborn life, that is, like, again, it's worth grieving over, but not devoid of hope. Remember the hope that you have and the fact that all sins are forgiven in Christ. So, we might have straight up lost Icy. His internet went down. Alrighty. Internet died. All right, heard. All right, we'll just try to wrap this up nice and quick then. Okay. Speed run time. Let's see, what else do we have left in the book? Yeah, so there's that. So as Platt brings the chapter to a close here, he brings up this mom who lives in a country in the world where baby girls are not favorably looked upon, right? Because we thinking about other cultures, there are over 35,000 children ripped from wombs every day. 35,000 daily in China. Over half of the women there have had at least one abortion. Some of those abortions are voluntary and some are mandatory because the government there enforces such for population control. And so they're, especially in rural villages, routinely checked that they are neither pregnant or given birth recently. So there's one example that he gives of someone that that thought that she wasn't going to be able to take care of her child and yet refused to have an abortion. Brought that child to term, gave birth, and then wrapped her in a light blue cloth and placed her in a brown paper box that night in front of an orphanage. An orphanage for children with special needs. The orphanage then found that baby girl the next morning and conducted a search for her mother, only to come up empty. And though though no one knows who that mom is, Platt thanks God for her because of her courage to refuse abortion there in China, and because of her compassion for the still unborn. That little girl was able to live. And Platt adopted that girl, brought her to America. And now that little girl comes running up with a smile spread across her face, jumping into David Platt's arms, yelling "Daddy," giving him the biggest bear hug. Every child is worth it. So, at the end of every chapter, he gives he didn't have this for the first chapter. So if you were here last week, that was an introductory chapter, so he didn't have it for that. He gives these first steps to counterculture. So the first steps for counterculture for this week. So they're under three headings: pray, participate, and proclaim. So under the prayer heading, ask God to end the injustice of abortion in our country and around the world. Number two, pray that he forgive you for whatever part you have played in abortion, whether it be because a lot of us have played part in abortion simply by permitting it and and things along those lines. And thirdly, pray that God convict those in positions of power to use their influence to end abortion. And then now under the participate heading, prayerfully consider these steps: writing to your representatives in Congress, working with ministries. So this is a big one. Working with ministries to, or participating in some of their events. So there, find a pregnancy care center, like that is within your area, and find their donation page. I put part of my tithing, right? So like I view the, like, you know, the 10% or whatever that we give to God. Like, this is I not just to church, but also like, so most of it goes to my church. A portion of it goes to some missionaries I support, and a portion also goes to a pregnancy care center within my area as well. So that is another thing to prayerfully consider, is financially supporting places that help women that you know, to be able to support their child and to be able to have their child, and then volunteering with those centers as well, he lists. And he gives a couple of scriptures to consider as well. I'll just list them off here for the sake of time. Psalm 139, verses 15 through 16, Proverbs 42, verses 10 to 12, and Matthew 19:14. So that is our time. This is usually when I ask the guest to pray us out, but gosh darn it, the scuff got him. Gosh darn it. Alrighty, so I'll pray us out real quick, and then we will go into those here on the stream. We will go into our chit-chatting time, and then those watching this later, like and subscribe, I guess. Alrighty. Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to have this dialogue, oh God. And I praise you, oh God, that there was no harshness of feelings here, that we were able to have a good dialogue, even with those that disagree with us. And I thank you for those that disagree with us, oh God. I thank you that you provide people that challenge us. And I pray, oh God, for just your work in everyone's hearts here in this chat, are listening to this later as well. That you convict, oh God, as you see fit, and that you, oh Father, I pray, bring an end to abortion, and at least in this nation, but though around the world, if you so please, Father. You will end it, Father, when your kingdom comes, when your Son comes again. You will bring it to an end. We are sure of that. For there will not be any death no more once that happens. So, Father, in anticipation of eternal life, let life not be unnecessarily extinguished. In your precious mighty name we pray. Amen.